On the night of April 11th, 1981, in the remote town of Keddie, California, darkness fell in ways no one could have ever imagined. Hidden deep within the forested Sierra Nevada mountains, the small resort town was supposed to offer peace and safety. But what happened inside Cabin 28 would leave scars that never truly healed, haunting not just one family, but the entire town for decades. Glenna Sue Sharp had moved to Keddie with her 5 children just months earlier, hoping to start fresh after escaping an abusive marriage. She rented Cabin 28 at the rundown Keddie Resort, a cluster of cabins that had seen better days. Life wasn't easy, money was tight, and Sue struggled to provide for her kids. But she had hope. She believed that, somehow, this sleepy town could give them a better future. On that fateful night, Sue stayed in with her 2 youngest sons, Rick and Greg, and their friend Justin Smart, who lived nearby. Her oldest son, John Sharp, and his friend Dana Wingate were out for the evening. Sheila, Sue's daughter, decided to spend the night at her friend's cabin next door. From the outside, it was just an ordinary evening. The children watched TV, laughter echoed softly between the cabins, and there was nothing unusual until the early hours of the morning. When Sheila returned home around 7 a.m. the next day, nothing could have prepared her for what she would find. The front door to Cabin 28 stood ajar. Inside, the scene was straight out of a nightmare. Her mother, Sue, her brother John, and his friend Dana lay brutally murdered in the living room. Blood was everywhere, smeared on the walls, soaked into the carpet. Electrical cords and medical tape bound the victims' hands and feet, their bodies beaten, stabbed and strangled with unimaginable force. The horror didn't end there. The 3 young boys, Rick, Greg, and Justin, were found alive, untouched, asleep in a nearby bedroom. It was as if the violence had completely bypassed them. But one Sharp family member was missing: Tina Sharp, Sue's 12-year-old daughter. She was gone without a trace. The Keddie Cabin Murders quickly became one of the most brutal and mysterious crimes in California's history. Investigators flooded the cabin, but almost immediately mistakes were made. The crime scene was not properly secured. Crucial evidence was lost or contaminated. Witnesses weren't interviewed properly. In a place like Keddie, a tiny, isolated community with limited police experience, no one knew how to handle a crime of this magnitude. Suspicion soon fell on 2 men: Martin Smart, Justin's father, and his friend John Bo Boubed, an ex-convict with alleged ties to organized crime. Both men had been acting strangely after the murders. They had been at the local bar the night of the killings, and afterward, Martin reportedly burned items in his fireplace. Items that may have been crucial evidence. Adding to the suspicion was a strange, chilling confession. Years later, it was revealed that Martin Smart had allegedly written a letter to his wife, Marilyn, in which he confessed to killing Sue Sharp. The letter, shockingly, was dismissed by investigators at the time. Justin, only a child, underwent hypnosis and described seeing parts of the murders, claiming 2 men attacked the family while Tina looked on helplessly. The descriptions he gave matched Martin and Bo eerily well. Yet despite the mounting evidence and suspicion, no arrests were ever made. As months passed with no sign of Tina, the horror deepened. Where was the missing daughter? Had she been taken by the killers? Was she still alive somewhere, waiting for rescue? Answers wouldn't come for 3 long years. In 1984, a man scavenging for bottles in the remote woods of Feather Falls, about 50 miles from Keddie, stumbled upon something gruesome: a human skull. Alongside the remains were a child's jacket, a pair of blue jeans with a missing back pocket, and an empty medical tape dispenser. Dental records confirmed what everyone feared. The skull belonged to Tina Sharp. The discovery raised even more questions. How did she end up so far from home? Had she been murdered immediately, or had she been alive for some time after the night of the killings? The cause of her death could never be definitively determined. The only certainty was that Tina had suffered a tragic, violent end, far from her family, in a lonely stretch of woods. Despite this devastating revelation, the case remained frustratingly unsolved. Over the years, rumors swirled. Some believed Martin Smart and Bo Bobedi were protected by local authorities. Others thought the small-town police simply weren't equipped to handle such a complex case, leading to missteps that forever buried the truth. Time moved on. Cabin 28 stood empty, a rotting reminder of the horror that had taken place within its walls. In 2004, the cabin was finally demolished, as if tearing down the physical structure could erase the memory of the nightmare. But the Keddie murders refused to be forgotten. In 2013, the Plumas County Sheriff's Office reopened the case. With advances in forensic technology and a new determination, investigators began sifting through the old evidence. They admitted that the original investigation had been deeply flawed. A hammer, believed to be one of the missing murder weapons, was recovered from a nearby pond. DNA was found on a piece of medical tape from the crime scene. Interviews with new witnesses and re-examinations of old statements pointed once again to Martin Smart and Bo Bubede as the likely killers. However, justice remained out of reach. Bo Bubede had died in 1988. Martin Smart passed away in 2000. The two prime suspects had taken their secrets to their graves. The Keddie cabin murders remain officially unsolved to this day. For the Sharp family, those who survived, and for the small community of Keddie, the wounds are still raw. Tina's disappearance and death in particular continues to haunt those who knew her. A young girl, just 12 years old, vanished from her home and was found discarded like trash in the wilderness. No answers, no justice. Today, true crime enthusiasts, independent investigators, and even former law enforcement officials continue to dig into the case. Every so often, new information emerges, but the heart of the mystery remains locked away, buried beneath decades of pain, silence, and fear. Some say the forest around Keddie still holds the truth, hidden among the whispering pines and crumbling trails. Others believe the real story was lost forever, the moment evidence was mishandled and opportunities were missed. One thing is certain: the story of Cabin 28 is no ghost story. It's a real, brutal chapter of American crime history, a haunting reminder that even the most peaceful places can become the setting for unspeakable horror. And for the Sharp family, especially for Tina, the lost daughter whose bright future was stolen in the dark, the tragedy of that night in 1981 will never truly be over. That's it for today's video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share the video to get the same quality content. See you in the next video.